Welcome everyone to this week's Fish Friday video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 13. 13 weeks down. Today's fish is definitely one of the most well-known fish that we have ever done. And quite possibly the tastiest. Definitely someone that can argue. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Today's fish is the rainbow trout. So, as you know, definitely one of the most well-known fish. Almost everyone has heard of this fish at least one point in their life, especially if you're in North America. So the rainbow trout, or scientific name Oncorhynchus mykiss. Let me say that again. Sounds weird, I know. Oncorhynchus mykiss. This is part of the Salmonidae family, or the salmon trout. You know, that's kind of obvious. These are native to the cold water tributaries of the Pacific Ocean in Asia and North America. There is about 15 subspecies that are recognized of the rainbow trout. Some of them are anadromous, like the steelhead trout. Some of them have odd coloration, like this, the golden rainbow trout. Something may need to note, they do have a fleshy fin right here. That is called an adipose fin. It's not necessarily unique to the Salmonidae family, but it's definitely not common. It does have its characteristic pink stripe, but something else you may not know is that there is spots on the tail. And the spots on the tails are pretty unique to the rainbow trout. Now, as far as size goes, you kind of have, since you have multiple subspecies, some that live exclusively in freshwater rivers, some that live in lakes, because we have spread these everywhere. And we'll get into how we've spread them around the world in a little bit, but some live in lakes. And then, of course, there's the anadromous one, the steelheads, the ones that live in the ocean and then migrate upstream to spawn. Think of your normal salmon runs, but rainbow trout are a part of that. So your river, the river species, subspecies of this, of the rainbow trout will average about 125 pounds, which is 0.5 to 2.3 kilograms. Your lake dwelling and your anadromous fish, so the ones that live in lakes and the ones that live in the ocean that migrate upstream, they do get bigger, potentially up to 20 pounds, or about 9 kilograms. It does seem to be that the maximum recorded lifespan of the rainbow trout is 11 years. That's at least the max recorded lifespan. So as you can see, here's another picture in spawning of this. Something to note, when spawning does happen, the coloration does change. They get a little bit yellower, and they develop that kind of characteristic hooked jaw that many people think of when they think of salmon. Now, in river habitats, so you can tell this one is caught in the river. This one is not in spawning. It does not have that hooked jaw, and it doesn't have that. However, it still has that pink stripe down the middle, and you can see the spots in the tail, the adipose fin. Definitely a pretty fish. Now, when they live in river, they both spawn and inhabit, so they live in small to moderately large rivers. The rivers have to be well oxygenated, so there has to be plenty of oxygen in the water, and the rivers also have to be kind of shallow. With gravel bottoms, and the gravel bottom's very important. We'll get into that just a little bit. As far as your lake version, the lake version of these live in moderately deep, cool lakes. So a little bit chillier lakes with adequate shallows and vegetation to support food sources. These things eat quite a bit of insects, and vegetation is pretty crucial to having an insect population to eat, for these to subsist on. And they also require the gravelly bottom for self-sustaining populations. And the reason that we talked about the gravel is is their spawning habits, which is what we're going to get into now. So their spawning habits is very well documented. The site is usually a bed of fine gravel in a riffle above a pool. So you find fine gravel in a riffle above a pool, and that can be where a potential rainbow trout spawn is going to happen. The females make a gravel bed for the eggs. This is called a redd. R-E-D-D. That's how you say that. She turns onto her side, and then she beats her tail to throw that fine gravel out of there and make a nice clean spot. And it's really important that she does that and that she does a good job. She's getting rid of all the dirt, all the decaying organic material out of this little area. A female will produce between 2,000 and 4,000. Okay, this is a little complicated to follow. So they will produce 2,000 to 4,000 4 to 5 millimeter eggs per kilogram of weight. So between 2,000 and 4,000 eggs per kilogram of weight, and the eggs are 4 to 5 millimeters wide. So really small eggs, but a lot of them. The eggs fall in between the cracks in the gravel. So they fall in between the gravel on that redd. Which is why it's so important that she gets rid of that any sediment or dirt that's potentially there. Getting rid of that fine gravel, it allows those eggs to sink there and allows water to flow through them. As she's releasing her eggs, the male will go release his milt, his man stuff, onto the eggs as they're being released. Then after the female is done laying, she will then go to all that fine gravel that she removed from the little redd, and she actually covers the eggs with that dispersed gravel. So the gravel that she removed from that little bed, she puts back on top to cover those. And then the reason why it's so clear that it's so crucial that she gets rid of all the dirt and everything is because those eggs require a lot of oxygen. So if there needs to be spaces in between the gravel so the water can flow through and continually bring new water to oxygenate those eggs. Then the baby fish will hatch, which are called fry. I believe it's like 4 to 6 weeks. Now, the steelhead, which those are the anadromous versions. The anadromous, like I said, they're living in the ocean and then migrating to freshwater to spawn. Just like the salmon you hear about, they do return to their original hatching grounds if possible. But something that's odd about the rainbow trout, not odd, just kind of unique about the rainbow trout. Everyone has heard of, the Pacific salmon migrating upstream, spawning, and then dying. Everyone has heard that. Rainbow trout, and that's the Pacific salmon. The Atlantic salmon and the rainbow trout they do not do that. So similar to the Atlantic salmons, the steelhead rainbow trout are iteroparous, meaning they can spawn multiple times. So rainbow trout will go up into the rivers to their original hatching grounds, spawn, and then come back out to the ocean to live. The juveniles stay in the river about 1 to 3 years, and then they go out to sea, which is it's relatively unique to the Pacific salmon runs. Now, getting into diet, these guys eat anything they can get their mouth around. They don't have that big of a mouth, but they do kind of eat anything. Tons of insects. They eat a lot of fish eggs. And they'll even eat flesh from decomposing fish carcasses in the river. So they'll kind of eat whatever they can more often than not, they're eating a lot of insects. If grasshoppers fall in the water, that's why one of the most common ways to catch these is a method called fly fishing. It's definitely one of the most popular methods. Now, getting into artificial propagation, which is the commercially raising these, or raising these in an artificial setting. These are one of the most propagated fish in the world. The first hatchery in the US, and I believe it was the first hatchery in the world, was actually in California in San Francisco Bay. That was built in 1870. Fish started being raised in it in 1871, 1872, I'm not entirely sure. In 1875, fish were transported from California to New York. I believe it's like the first known recorded case of fish being transported that far of a distance strictly for propagation. Now, as I said, these are heavily commercially farmed even to this day. In 2007, there was 604,695 tons harvested at a valuation of $2.6 billion. Now, if I remember correctly, that's only in the US. That is not counting the fish facilities that are raising these all over the world. I believe that is just US. So 604,695 tons of rainbow trout harvested, either to for dog food, for other people to eat. This is a lot of fish. To give you an example of how popular these fish are now in 87 countries around the world. 87 countries. Now, one of the most popular things about this fish is the fishing opportunities that these do present. And the biggest one that I am familiar with, or not the biggest one, but the one I am the most familiar with, is what is called the Neighborhood Fishing Program that is in Texas. So, Texas Parks and Wildlife stocks these fish in city park ponds, select portions of river throughout the state, that it's encouraging for people, and they do this in urban areas, where people don't get to go out into the wilderness to fish for these kind of naturally. They do this to increase fishing opportunities, to get people interested in fishing throughout the state, to give people an opportunity to go fishing that just don't actually have that opportunity. And they put these in Texas. It's too warm for these fish to survive, except for one place that I know of. So they put these trout in, but the water is actually too warm for them to spawn. Luna's here. So they'll survive in this river, but they normally won't survive the next summer. Some might, but it is definitely not cold enough for them to spawn, to release their eggs, and the eggs survive. So the idea is you put these out for good opportunities for people to fish, but they won't spawn, and then so they don't take over the native populations. The only example that I can think of where the fish do not survive, or where the fish have survived and created a self-sustaining population, is below a dam in Texas. That the dam is releasing water from at the bottom of the lake, so this water is actually very cold compared to the surrounding waters, and then it'll warm up downriver, but it's cold right there where the water is being released. Because of that, there is actually a self-sustaining population there, because the water is so cold. They can't go any farther downstream because it gets too warm for them downstream. and they obviously cannot go upstream because of the dams, because of the dam that's releasing the water. So it's a odd set of circumstances that's definitely unique. I have a feeling you feel like that's an option. Yes, the neighborhood fishing program is an incredible program. I'm 100% in support of this program. Many people in the cities cannot go out to fish. It's really hard for them to find the time, but it's really nice for, a grandfather picking up his kids and being like, we're going to go fishing at the city park. You don't have to drive an hour and a half. They can just go to this city park that should be relatively safe. Not any problems. Just go out there, throw a line in the river, and it might be the first fish that this kid catches. Gets him excited about fishing and natural resources. Because here's something that's about Texas. All of the natural resources, not all of the natural resources work, but a lot of conservation work in Texas is funded by hunting and fishing licenses. So you actually, when you buy your license, that license fee is not just to, pay for the actual license. It's actually going to fund all of the conservation efforts that Texas Parks and Wildlife is involved in. Yes, they get some grants from here and from there, things like that, but it's pretty important for that. So please go buy your fishing license if you're in Texas. So I love the neighborhood fishing program. I believe it's incredibly important and definitely gives people an incredible opportunity, because here's another thing. I don't believe you need a fishing license to go to the neighborhood fishing programs. I'm not 100% on this, but I can find out because I can just cut this out of the YouTube video. I should also note that the neighborhood fishing program, also they do a lot of classes as well, teaching people how to fish. Okay. So, just looked it up, and kids under 17 years old can fish for free at neighborhood fishing programs. So, that's pretty cool. It gives the kids an opportunity. I did see that adults do need to have their fishing license. So, big supporter, very important. Definitely one of the most important things about this fish in the state of Texas. Now, the issues that are coming, the steelhead part, so the subspecies of the rainbow trout that live in the ocean that migrate upstream to spawn, they are having a bit of problems because of the dams that have been put in. But the dams going in that are stopping the fish from being able to migrate upstream. And this is a very common problem with the Pacific Northwest region. Dams have been put in that are stopping spawning migrations, and there's a lot of efforts going in to mitigate these issues, but there's only so much you can do. So, just a quick repeat of everything. 15 subspecies. Some are anadromous, living in the ocean, migrating upstream. You got this pink stripe, especially in breeding. It's got that fleshy adipose fin. You got your river and lakeside. The spawning, they're spawning on beds of fine gravel. The oxygenation of this bed is crucial. Oxygenation is just important for this fish and ever. They eat absolutely anything, and they are one of the most popular fish in the world for propagation, spreading them everywhere. They're in 87 countries and over 600,000 tons harvested in the U.S. at a valuation of about $2.6 billion. And most important for the state of Texas, the neighborhood fishing program. So, thank you guys so much for stopping in. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I do not have a saltwater fish for next week. So, leave a comment, and it might be done. Definitely might go on the list. You never know. I'll definitely answer the comment at least. If you have any questions, please comment as well. I read every single comment that's put in. There are not a lot of them, but I do. So thank you guys so much. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and peace.